I want to take you through something amazing that happened to me in Toastmasters. As you may know, I've been in Toastmasters for a long time, since 2009, and I've had an incredible journey. And when Pathways came to life, it gave me new hope, new things to look for, new challenges to take on. And I want to take you back to when I was growing up. At a younger age, I was fascinated by the art of cooking, and I loved to entertain and cook for other people. I used to watch chefs create these amazing masterpieces with food. And then I realized they work 12 to 14-hour days, 5 to 6 hours a week. Now, that is true dedication to the art of cooking. But I loved it. They loved it. I was connected to it. I was fascinated by the creation of food from scratch: peanut butter pie, chocolate mousse, cheesecake. Is anyone getting hungry yet? Anyway, I also loved seafood. I grew up around seafood. Lobster was probably the most memorable dish, having just a simple lobster in when I was growing up. But this began my dream of becoming a chef. Now, I started out my career in cooking at McDonald's for 6 months, received a 10-cent raise, and eventually I left and went to this amazing country club called the Bear Creek Country Club. I met this incredible chef that really started my career in cooking. And he gave me a lot of challenges. And one of the things you have to do when you become a chef or a cook is you have to learn to saute, and that's flipping food in a pan very carefully. So I would go home and cook for my parents. I'd take out a bag of frozen peas and I'd toss them up in the air, and I would pray that they would land in the pan. And you know what? They landed all over the floor. So I'd sweep them up and I'd start again until I finally mastered the art of saute. That began my dream again of becoming a chef. Now, fast forward to March 2nd, 2020. Governor Jay Inslee of Washington State announced that all restaurants in the state would shut down. But when I looked around the world and watched the news, the hospitality industry was devastated. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and all restaurants around the world were starting to shut down. Now, as you know, I had studied to be a chef. I spent 10 years in the restaurant business, and I personally understood the struggles that were facing the chefs and the people in the hospitality industry because they worked so hard and now they had to deal with this pandemic. So many people were out of work. So many people lost their hope, and I wanted to do something. So I had this idea, and one day I woke up with the idea that I wanted to give chefs a voice. I was motivated by a deep desire during this time of silence and isolation. So I had imposter syndrome. It set in right away. The idea of giving chefs a voice and launching a podcast to me was so daunting and so scary. And I will bet you that several people in this virtual classroom right now are feeling that, are on the fence, and maybe you want to launch a podcast. Now, I can't see all of you, but in the chat, if you're thinking about launching a podcast or you have, put it out there in the chat for everybody to see. And if you have imposter syndrome, put it out there in the chat because I'm going to look back later. But I would really love to know that. So I had imposter syndrome. I was nervous. I was holding back. But I was a Toastmaster and I knew that I could do this. So I attended an advanced pathways seminar, and it was led by someone named Kyle Hall. He's from District 32 and District 2 in the Washington area. And I will tell you, He ignited my purpose and confidence because he was talking about advanced projects in pathways. And he said, is anyone working on a level 4 or a level 5 project? So I raised my virtual hand, like I just saw a couple of them go up. And I said, I'm thinking about a podcast to honor chefs in Seattle, Washington. And he said, that's easy. He said, all you have to do is look over the level 4 project, which is on podcasting, and then take on the level 5 project, which is the high performance leadership project. I had already done an HPL before, so I was familiar with it. But then the light bulb went off. I could have help overcoming my imposter syndrome. I could have help and energy from other people to create this idea of a podcast. So I did it. I brought in a life coach, an executive assistant, my wife, who's a designer and a senior user researcher. If you look at the Voice for Chefs logo, she created that. And every time I see it, I feel inspired. Even to this day, after 4 years of podcasting, I had to share it in the PowerPoint because it is the signature of the podcast. So I felt inspired by these people. And we met for 5 sessions for an hour each time over a span of about 2 months. And I was still wavering. I wasn't ready to launch the podcast. But I was so excited and I felt so supported. And I have to tell you, if you know Kyle Hall, you will understand. He is incredible. He came in 3rd place in the World Championship of Public Speaking. He's an incredible leader. He's been a division director. He's been a district director. He is all over the map, all over the world in Toastmasters. And he's one of my heroes. And he gave so much to this high performance leadership project. So as we went along, we started to shape the podcast, the mission, the vision, the values. And it was hard. It was really hard, deep rooted, soulful work, but it was amazing. The energy and the collaboration that happened. So I want to share with you, if you're thinking about a high performance leadership project to start a podcast or to start a community project, be very, very picky about who you choose to be on your team. They need to be available. They need to be committed. They need to be driven and motivated. And I was so lucky to have every one of those in every team member. So as we went along, I want to share with you a little bit about when you start a podcast, and that's what we were doing. One of the first things is so important is the music. You've got to have that connection to your audience if you're going to do an interview style podcast. And it has to be short. It can't be 10 minutes. It needs to be 30 to 45 seconds to catch the viewer's attention or the listener's attention. In my case, it's mostly audio, but you've got to catch their attention, okay? And that is the key. Now, when you begin the path to creating the podcast, you'll discover that this is a critical piece. So I want to take you back to a time when my wife and I were at the Cedar River Golf Club restaurant. It was Saturday in the middle of summer. At dinner, we looked around and there were only 3 couples in the restaurant. All the staff were wearing masks because it was the middle of the pandemic. And in walks a 5'6" scruffy guy. He walks to the front of the room, and in the corner of the room, he sits down next to a fireplace. My wife and I are sitting in the back, and he pulls out his guitar and he starts playing this familiar music. He played Sailing Takes Me Away to Where I'm Going. Doo-doo. And that's by Christopher Cross. And it's a beautiful song. And he played all these incredible 70s songs. And it brought back so many memories for us. And it healed us from being in the pandemic because We used to go see him play all over the local restaurants in Seattle, Washington on date nights. And it brought back so many incredible memories. And his name, I'm choked up a little bit, but his name is Steve Olson. So the night went on, and all of a sudden, it was time to go. So as we were leaving, my wife and I went over to thank him and, of course, to tip him because it was such an amazing night, a night of healing and energy. And then my wife nudged me and she said, just tell him. Just tell him, Michael. Tell me what? Steve asked. Oh, well, I'm going to start a podcast to honor chefs. And I've been calling local restaurants and asking to speak to the manager so I can actually get permission, the manager or the owner, so I actually can get permission to interview their chef. And I went through this whole idea in my head that I needed permission. And it took forever to get them to say yes. Fast forward today, 4 years from then, and I actually have chefs that call me from around the world and reach out over social media and say, hey, I'd love to be a guest on your podcast. So things have changed quite a bit, but it's all because of that. So as I was talking to Steve, he looked up at me and he said, just give me a call. And he handed me his business card and he smiled and we connected. So I called him. It took a week or two. Then it took a few more weeks and he eventually called me back. And he is a fireman in the Seattle area. So he's at the fire station and he pulls out his guitar and I put him on speakerphone and he started playing this amazing song that became, hold on one second. Let's see if this works. Come on in to a place you've never been. Sit right down and I'll show you where my dreams begin. That song is the core for the Voice for Chefs podcast. And the reason that it's the core is because it talks about the idea of coming into a restaurant and you sit down in the back in a secret area and you're sitting down and having a conversation with the chef, with me. We're sitting down in this private area that's really quiet and you're coming on in to a place you've never been. Take me back to where my dreams begin. We wrote this song together and it was beautiful. And I got feedback from the people in the High Performance Leadership Project, and they loved the idea. And for 4 years, this has been the signature song for this podcast. Steve didn't want any money. He didn't want anything, but I paid him $50 because I just was so inspired by what he did. And I wanted to show him how much it matters. And this year, Fred doesn't know this, but I'm going to bring Steve to Podmasters and I'm going to interview him and share the ideas that he has around music. So as we go along, we're going to talk about a few critical things, overcoming imposter syndrome. We're going to do a pre-interview, talk about the process a little bit, and then we're going to have a surprise guest. We're going to talk about learning from failing and taking fear and squashing it through this process. And then we're going to celebrate our guests and listeners. And I'm going to have a final message for you. So let's continue. The pre-interview process is so critical, and we implemented this in Podmasters. And to give you an idea, in the beginning, we would do an interview and we'd have podcaster 1 and podcaster 2. So the interviewer, the interviewee. Now, what we didn't really understand, and it took us a little bit and then we got it, is that we don't want to just ask questions. We want to create experiences, as my wife would say, Carrie. We want to connect with our guests. And the best way to do that, if you're doing an interview, is a pre-interview. So, idea in the pre-interview, I do a 15 to 20-minute interview with a potential guest, and I share the vision of the podcast, what it's all about. I learn about their story and the arcs. And what I mean by that is, what are their proudest moments, their biggest challenges? Then you harvest the gems of the conversation, because believe it or not, sometimes the most important stories come from the pre-interview. Then you want to confirm your requirements. I use Zencaster to record. So I always try to test in the pre-interview, is the sound working? Are they able to get their camera working? And sometimes we have challenges. So it's better to get it out in the pre-interview. And then I ask for resources, because I love to research. I love to research my guests and find out about them, because my whole goal as a podcaster is to honor them. The guest makes the difference, and the audience needs to be honored as well. So it's really about bridging that and bringing those two together. That is where you create powerful content in podcasting. And it didn't happen overnight. Started out for me just asking a series of questions back and forth and not truly listening. And that's where you can really listen, is in the pre-interview process. So those are key things. You gather that research. Maybe they've been on a podcast before. I would highly recommend that you listen to it and maybe gather some similar questions or follow-up questions that were never asked, and then create your own, of course. But you can create a lot of questions right from the pre-interview. So as we move forward, I am going to invite a very special guest who I recently met and feel very connected to. Angelina, would you come on down? Angelina Dickey from District 33, our program quality director. I am so excited to have you today as our guest.
Thank you, Michael. I am here and ready to roll.
Okay, well, let's start out and get everybody connected to who you are. Now, I understand that you come from the Filipino culture. And can you tell us really quick? There are two things in my mind. I've interviewed a lot of Filipino chefs. In fact, Izzy Lorano is from the Philippines in Manila, and she just visited Seattle for 3 weeks. So we spent time together going to dinner and talking and connecting and bonding. And she was one of my first international guests. And so when I think about the Philippine culture, I feel so connected to it because of her and some of the other guests that I've had. Can you tell me? I believe there are two powerful things in the Filipino culture. And Fred, who's Filipino, may also be able to concur. It's food and it's family. Can you tell me what
Perfect, Michael.
those, oh, sorry. Can you tell me what those two mean to you?
Oh my goodness. You just have a blend of the best things I love. And I know that there are some of you here who are Filipinos and who have Filipino friends. Food and family. So food can connect family together. Think about how we celebrate when we see halo halo. If you have heard halo halo, it's a dessert. It's a very delicious dessert that is known in the Philippines. It has 10, 12, however many ingredients you have there, but it's just so good. It brings that fun and smile in everybody's faces. And family, it is known that we have extended family because we don't only have our parents and our children, but it is a family, a community, however you call it, by blood, by inspiration. It's an extended community, and so food and family always connects Filipinos and their friends. So I love that first question. Thank you, Michael. That's a good question.
And because we're learning together, I just want to share how important these questions are, because it's a warm up. You want to connect to your guest. And by connecting to your guest, you're magically connecting to your audience, because they're going to feel inspired and they're going to listen more and they're going to want to connect. It's such a critical thing, because Angelina and I, while we were preparing for this presentation, we actually had a pre-interview together where I got to know her. She got to learn about voice for chefs. And that is the magic that most people miss when they podcast. So I encourage you, if you're going to podcast, this is the critical step. So as we move on, Angelina, thank you for sharing that. Can you tell us a little bit about your leadership journey? What has been the most transformative experience in your Toastmaster leadership journey, and how has it shaped you personally to mentor others?
I love that transition, Michael, from the warm up to this question where I really have to pour my heart. My fellow Toastmasters, I joined Toastmasters by accident. I don't know if you are like me. I love the thinking, the talking, and the writing, but not so much about anything physical. So workout is not my top priority. But one day I went to YMCA here in my area, and there were two rooms that I could see. One is a workout room, one is somewhere they have a lectern. And I thought, wait a minute, this is a good escape. I'll go to the room with the lectern. And it happened to be a Toastmasters meeting. So it was an accident, but my fellow Toastmasters, it's been years. It was my decision to stay as in Toastmaster because of the leadership, because of the growth, because of the chance and the opportunity to learn alongside fellow leaders and to learn without the risk. I would say without the risk because we are all supportive and positive. So we agree. We first are voluntold to be vice president, and then we get voluntold to be area directors. And the journey continues because we love the learning and we love the sharing. To me, the more you are blessed, the more you should have the strength and the humility to serve others. So that's why it is a decision for me to be here. So I love that, Michael. That's a good recollection of why I'm here in Toastmasters.
That is fantastic and so inspiring to me. And that leads me to a final question. What key lessons have you learned from mentoring members? And I understand you've chartered 10 clubs. I helped charter one club. 10 clubs is an amazing accomplishment.
Amazing, amazing, Michael. 10 clubs in 4 years. From the pandemic to now, I can see your head shaking. It is just amazing how you can have people around you when you have a common goal. I would say, in response to what is the best thing that I could offer and I could remind everybody is that to meet people where they are. I think of my why I was joining Toastmaster because English is not my first, not my second, not my third language. So when I talk to my fellow community members who are learning to develop their skills in communicating in English and trying to up themselves in the career ladder by language and communication, I meet them where they are. So when I say meet them where they are, I'm thinking, Michael, there are two things that we could inspire people. There are people who are just so inspirational with their words. There are people who are just so motivating with their actions. So I would blend both. As a leader, I want to be a leader who will do what I will say and I will speak to what I do. So it comes to that. It's the authenticity of teaching them with words, with instructions, but at the same time, inspiring with actions. And I love how you have this podcast. And your first question was answered by me. I have an answer in the chat. I said, if I had to have a podcast like this, Michael, I love you're doing this. It is because I want to use my voice just like as you do. But for me, my heart at this point is for youth with learning disabilities and for those who are immigrants and who are not from this country and who are adjusting based on language and culture. I want to meet them where they are and be learning with them and an inspiration to them. So thank you for this inspiration, Michael. Opens a lot of ideas and a lot of doors.
Well, thank you, Angelina, for being a guest excuse me, for being a guest today. We were so thrilled to have you on our podcast at Podmasters Advanced. I'm going to skip through a few things because of time. So I see the yellow, so I'm gonna jump through a couple things. But I will say a quick word about imposter syndrome. We all have it. We came to Toastmasters for a reason. I certainly had it. And since 2009, I've worked to overcome it. And I want to share a few techniques that you might consider. If you're an advanced Toastmaster and you're thinking about podcasting, if you're beginning Toastmaster, you can still do this. But Stage Time University is where I really learned how to become a speaker. They have professional speakers there, they have people that aspire to become world champions. And the reason is because this was founded by Darren LaCroix. And Darren brought in Mark Brown, who is a professional coach and a world champion in public speaking. And also, he coaches world champions. Every week for 2 years, I met with this group around the world. It could be 10 people, it could be 40 people. We met online. We were coached by Mark Brown. We were coached by Jennifer Leone, who's in Australia, and she's an incredible international speech coach. And there were several others that were part of this group. And then we had 30 or 40 people that would provide feedback for an hour and a half on how to improve your speaking, your video, your sound, all of it. And it was the most incredible transformational experience of my life. It's part of what gave me confidence to become a podcaster and successful. The 77-day challenge Darren invented. And the idea is that you go on Facebook Live and you record yourself every day for 77 days and you tell a story. You share a message. You empower people for 77 days. The first 10 days are incredibly hard because you're putting yourself out there on social media and you might feel like you're going to get criticized. I don't know anyone who has, but I felt personally inside I was really dealing with imposter syndrome and I wanted to squash it because it was so important to me as a podcaster. Clubhouse was something I was involved in, a club called Food is Religion. I joined Clubhouse. It was an audio only app, and you would log on your phone. And they had in this club, they had 5,000 people that were in the club, not at one point in time. They were all day, 24/7, all over the world. And they would talk about food. They would they would talk about anything related to food, the mental health struggles in the restaurant business. So I learned so much to gain new ideas from my podcast. And I reached out to Mimi Land. Chef Mimi Land is a Michelin trained chef out of Florida, believe it or not. If anybody wants to reach out to her, she's amazing. She does pop ups. I believe it's in Jacksonville, Florida. And she's become my dear friend over the past 4 years and a true supporter of this podcast. She brought me in and said, I want you to do online, audio only cooking class interviews. So the idea is I would interview a professional chef, a celebrity chef from all over the world on top of doing my podcast. And they would cook live, but you couldn't see it. You could only hear it. So imagine somebody is making a dish and you could hear the sizzling in the pan and they would talk about the ingredients and I would interview them and ask them questions. That helped my podcast explode to 90 countries around the world. And it helped me get over imposter syndrome. It's not gone, but it's really helped. So these cooking classes, we held a food talk show for about a year, and I was hosting these every week. And then, of course, Podmasters interviewed amazing people, including Greg Gazin, who came for our open house. That was the biggest honor for me since 2009. And podcasting opens those doors. So I want to talk a little bit about failure. You want to be free to fail. I'll give you a great example. James Trees is a celebrity chef. He worked for Gordon Ramsay. He helped open Kitchen Nightmares and Hell's Kitchen. He ran a secret kitchen on the TV show for all the celebrities that came, excuse me, that came to eat. And so powerful, incredible interview. But in the middle of the interview, my computer crashed and he was at home with his public relations person because they didn't want him to say anything that wasn't appropriate. And they were friends. So they're cracking beers. They're literally cracking beers while we're interviewing. And I heard in his voice, he's like, where did he go? What happened? Is he going to come back? And this is a celebrity chef saying this to his public relations person. And I just imagined what that looked like. And because I'm a tech, I had the computer booted up, logged in. Within 4 minutes, I was back online and we just continued the interview and I edited out a little bit of it. But that was so powerful. Another one, my wife and I last year for our 20th anniversary, we went to Tahiti. And one day we were having dinner at this amazing restaurant. It was local Tahitian food. And my wife reached out to the owner and said, would it be okay if my husband interviewed you for his podcast? He interviews chefs around the world and restaurant owners. And they looked at us and they said, of course, but could you come on Sunday? We'll have brunch and we have live music. And I'm like, wow, that could be a lot of fun. So I went with my wife on Sunday and we sat down in the back in a quiet space of the restaurant and the band was playing in the background and I'm doing a one-on-one live interview. I usually do only over the computer, but I'm doing more of that now in Tahiti. In Tahiti, I'm doing this interview and it was so incredible. And she was so gracious. And I had two different devices recording just in case. And I'm on vacation, so I don't have a lot of things to work with. It's my iPhone and something else like a camera. I think it was oh, I don't know what it was. But anyway, what was amazing is just to be in that moment. And my wife has never been watching me interview. So she was on a couch in this, office and it was so powerful. But the sad part is when I got home and I listened to the recording, it was terrible because the band was bleeding into the conversation and I had such a hard time editing it, but I eventually did, but it took hours of time. So that was a failure that turned into a success. And then the last one, we call him One Take Tom. I don't know if any of you know about him, but Tom Douglas, Chef Tom Douglas, is from Seattle. He basically put food on the map in Seattle. Like he is an incredible chef and he is my idol. I've known him or connected with him in different places for 30 years. And I ended up going to a radio show that he hosts every week in a cooking studio. And after it was done, I walked out of the bathroom and I saw him in his office and I cornered him and I said, Tom, I would love for you to be on my podcast. And he goes, what's the name? Oh, Voice for Chefs. Voice for Chefs. He said, I like that name. Go ahead and talk to my assistant. Let's get that going. So when I interviewed him, One Take Tom means he doesn't practice. He just shows up and does it. He had done a 2-hour radio show. He came back 10 minutes after. I'm online with him. And literally, he just did the interview. But he did it on an iPad, and my tools don't work with an iPad. So I had to use Zoom, which I wasn't prepared for. So it wasn't truly a fail, but it was like, you got to get ready. You got to be ready for anything. Okay, so moving on, you want to celebrate your chefs. And when I say that, we had a party on my birthday for season 3. This is season 4 right now, just so you get perspective. And it was hosted by two amazing people. Chef Jensen Cummings, who has the Best Served podcast. He has over 500,000 followers. And it is an incredible podcast, and he's an incredible podcaster. And he and Chef Mimi Land, who I told you about, they hosted this party, and I think we had 40 or 50 people online on Zoom. And we did food trivia and all kinds of trivia. And then he grilled me. He interviewed me live in front of all my friends, listeners, followers, guests. And it was absolutely incredible because we wanted to celebrate the podcast for my birthday. I wanted to honor chefs for my birthday. And it was the greatest gift. So here's a couple chefs. This is Chef Ed Harris. He's a celebrity chef that I've had on the podcast. I met him on Clubhouse and he became a Chop champion. He worked for top restaurants in New York as an executive chef. And he also beat Bobby Flay. He competed with Bobby Flay. So he's on the Food Channel. This is James Trees, who I told you about. And this is Chef Andy LaRusso, who's one of my dearest friends for 4 years. And he just performed. He sings and cooks Italian. He's an epic recording artist and he was in Atlantic City at the Hard Rock Cafe and Casino. He performed for 1,200 people. And I just talked to him yesterday about it. And I was thrilled because I love it when I see the success of the guests from Voice for Chefs. And this is, oh my gosh, I'm escaping. Anyway, what I want to do is share a little bit really quick, and then we're going to move on. These are how you can market your podcast. I typically now do video and I share 60-second clips. And this is Greg Gazin, the host of the official Toastmaster podcast. Your voice is so connected. And what I feel, Greg, is that you are spreading this message across the world. And there's nothing, it's not a monetary thing. It's a soulful thing, is what I feel. Like listening to the latest episode with our new international president, I just felt how connected you are. That's what you need to understand. And you probably don't hear this from other people, but podcaster to podcaster, it's like, it takes a long time to develop that skill. It goes beyond Toastmasters. It's like elevated, right? and I really appreciate it. And I want to honor you for that. Honestly, that's how I truly feel.
I'm very grateful. As a Toastmaster, I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always looking at newer and better ways.
Yeah. That's just an example. And then a final one before we wrap up. This is Kirk Bachman. He is the president of the Auguste Escoffier Institute in Colorado, one of the top cooking schools in the country. And I was so honored to have him on the podcast. And this is just a short clip that I used in social media that was very powerful.
Michael, the microphone that day is mine. No one else's.
Yeah.
No one else's. I tell the story. I confer upon them, the students, the graduates, their degrees or their diplomas. And we take pictures with their families. We hug their families. Beautiful. We hug each other. That's hands down the proudest moment. There's other pinnacle moments when we have the Department of Education of the state of Colorado come in and let us know that we're operating on all cylinders, or our national accreditor comes in and says, after a long review, that we have 14 strengths and we're just operating at the highest level. Yeah, those are all proud moments. A lot of work goes into all of that. I'm so thankful for the teams around me for that.
Yeah.
But graduation, the culmination of dreams, of plans, it's nothing that beats that.
What you're seeing right there is the true essence of why I keep podcasting after 4 years. We had an emotional moment. Both of us almost broke down in tears. And every time I see that clip, I get choked up. So I'm going to wrap up. Before you head out today, take a moment to visit Voice for Chefs. It's voiceforchefs.com, and it's the number 4. Subscribe to the show. Check out an episode. If you enjoy what you hear, please share it and leave us a review on our website. And remember, 5 stars helps keep our chef stories alive. And if you're holding back on podcasting, remember your voice is needed. The time is now. Let your HBL project be the launchpad for a podcast that transforms fear into purpose for you and your listeners. Because your story, it truly matters. And like Voice for Chefs, it needs to be spread across the world. And remember, Craig Valentine, the 1999 world champion of public speaking, once told me It's not about perfection. It's about connection. Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on Facebook. Find our website in the show notes. Subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen. Leave a comment with 5 stars and stay tuned for the next episode of Voice for Chefs.
Michael, we have a question from Francine.
Okay.
And she says, Michael, how often do you post content and what time commitment does it take?
That depends. So my goal is to release 1 episode a month on the second Sunday at 1 p.m., by the way, which is tomorrow. And what I've realized is I probably do 2 a month, and then I put out content that goes along with that. So you saw what we call reel, and I moved through them pretty fast because I realized we were out of time. But the reels are so powerful for social media. And what I hadn't had a chance to say, I used to do audio only reels, basically ask this chef for a picture, and then I'd attach a little clip of our interview to it for 40 seconds, 50 seconds. They don't get a lot of views. But what you saw is the video clips. Those are the ones that are impactful and worth spending the time. 45 to 60 seconds on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and you change the size for each one of them. You saw one that was vertical, and that's for Instagram. And you saw one that was horizontal, that's for YouTube, Facebook. And also include custom text, and colored text sometimes works. But to answer your real question, I do spend a lot of time with that, but now I use Descript, which has a lot of AI that saves hours of time. I can create reels in 5 minutes, and it will comb through an hour-long episode and find the highlights of the whole episode in 5 minutes, not hours, 5 minutes. And that is where, to answer your question, because I invested in the tools, I don't spend as much time anymore. I basically do an interview, I do a quick edit, I put out a transcript, I put out the reels, and I'm done. It still takes a lot of work, and I'm still looking for another editor or anyone that wants to be part of Voice for Chefs and learn. I'm a great teacher. But it definitely does take some time, but with AI you can save yourself a lot of time.
Michael,
Is
that's
it paid?
Since we are
Michael.
almost finished, we're not showing any video. So anybody who want to show the face, they can always show the face now. We can see everybody now.
Nigel's got a
Nigel has a question.
Okay, hold on. Is it paid?
What's that?
Is it paid?
You mean is my podcast? Do I
No,
monetize?
no. You're looking for an editor. Is it paid?
No, it's more about experience. You know how that is. It's I invest in this podcast. I spend quite a bit, and I can't afford to pay an editor for my but what I can do is offer a free Descript account, and that's expensive. So if someone wants to learn a really amazing tool, I pay for the account. And then in exchange, they learn editing as long as they want to do it. It's not like a super long-term commitment, but it would be wonderful to teach someone and also to have help.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Francine has another question saying, what AI tool do you use to do the reel?
Descript. And like I was saying, you can go through a hour-long episode, and within 5 minutes, it will pick out the top. I can't do it manually like that. I can say create 15 reels that highlight something about the podcast, and all of a sudden, I choose 3, and they're right there, and within 5 minutes.
So they're pretty good.
They're incredible.
Descript, I should write that down.
Yep. And with any tool, you're going to get negativity. Like some people like it, some people don't. It's a paid tool, so you have people that don't like it, but then you have people that love it, like me. Anyone else? Dr. Yvonne has a question. I can tell she's smiling.
Unmute.
I am smiling, but it's because I am enjoying this very, very much.
Good. Good.
I am eager to learn, and so I am grateful, basically.
Since we have a couple minutes, I'll just throw something else in that's not on script. One of the greatest moments for me since 2009 being a Toastmaster was our open house. And I want to paint a picture for everyone. Just like being here and we all gather together, I think we had over 35 people from around the world. And some of them I invited and other ones from different clubs. But Greg Gazin has a heart of gold. And I got to spend 2 months with him, talking, chatting. I felt like I was being mentored by the best podcaster in all of Toastmasters. And it was incredible. And we still connect. And that for me was the greatest gift I could ever ask for in Toastmasters. And that happened at our club, Podmasters Advanced. I still can't believe it. And he was asking advice from me on a lot of things, which was such an incredible exchange. And that's what I want to say is that podcasting opens doors for you and Toastmasters opens doors. But when you combine the two, it is such a powerful combination. So if you are on the fence about this, if you are going through imposter syndrome, I'll give you a personal invitation. Reach out to me and we can talk through it.
So since we have a little time, if anybody got question for Fred, the first presenter, you can ask question. Fred, Fred, did you say you want the article link on the chat? What's that?
I can put it in there. Michael was talking about the open house. I'm gonna put the link.
Okay.
I'm gonna put the link in here. I wrote an article about our club and mentioned the open house, and I just put it in the chat. If people want to read it, learn more about our club, and learn about the open house and the interview with Greg Gazin, I just put it in the chat.
That looks good. Now, also another question.
Yeah, Francine wants to know if you use show notes or do you use AI?
Who's she asking that to, Michael or myself? Because we have two different approaches.
Oh, both of you should share your approach.
Okay. I don't use show notes. I believe Michael does. Like when I do mine, I just write my stuff out. And there's a video I put on our Facebook page about, like writing out your episodes, writing out your plan, so to speak. The only time I use AI is for like clips, reels, or editing. Is really the only time I use AI. Maybe if I have a blank on how to expand my podcasts or my questions more, I might use ChatGPT. But for the most part, I don't use any show notes. I just go with the pre-interview, what I write down, and what the collaboration is between my guest and I.
Well, Michael disappeared for some reason.
He might be switching devices.
Yep, possible. Oh, it's just
That's probably him right there.
Take your picture, Yvonne.
Yep.
Can we repeat that question also for Michael? I can go ahead and ask it, Michael. I just asked, do you use show notes? And if so, do you use AI to help you with this?
You're muted, Michael.
Okay. Unmute.
You're muted, Michael.
Put this way.
I think he's going to have to switch devices again.
All right. So Michael, I think, is asking for a minute. And this is
I'm unmuted.
Ready.
There you go. There he is.
Let's, for the recording, let's ask the question one more time.
I can go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Michael, do you use or do you create show notes? And if so, do you use AI to do this?
I do. I create a transcript, I create show notes, and it sounds very daunting, but again, with Descript, 5 minutes. I mean, you literally can paste a transcript in and say, create show notes. But what I do is I don't take it from there. I edit it myself. I make it really emotional and connected, but it still doesn't take very long to do that, where I used to spend hours doing that. It's a few minutes. The thing that's brilliant about Descript is that everything in it has modules for podcasting. So the reels, the show notes, the summaries, the titles, it's all in there in a very easy to follow process. And that's why I love it so much. It's like one shot. I use ChatGPT too, but Descript does it all.
Any more questions? See, if not,
Nigel has a question.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think should be a typical thing that's done in a pre-interview?
That's not in a pre-interview? You mean something to add?
Typical things. Well, I mean, what are the typical things to do in a pre-interview?
Sure. There were a few I covered, but I knew I had to go fast because of time. I believe that the pre-interview is the time that you really need to bond with your guest. It is so critical. So what you do is you share a little bit about what you're about. Like Voice for Chefs, I would tell them, my goal is to honor you, is to honor my guest, is to help you create your story. It's not about me. It's absolutely not. And I learned that very early on. And then I stopped asking questions and I started creating what my wife calls experiences. Every episode is a gem to me. 90 episodes, every single one is a gem. 95% of my guests are my friends. I could reach out and ask them to do anything, and they would do it. They drop the hat immediately. And that's the bonding, Nigel, that you can do with your guests. We didn't have a pre-interview. And when I came, I wish we had, but I'm very seasoned. So it wasn't hard, right? But we would have bonded even more. Like, I know you more now from the times that you've been here to the open house, you've been to a lot of the meetings, and I'm so excited for you. I am so excited for you. But we didn't have that connection when we interviewed. Imagine if we did. That would be even more connected. You know, the key is the pre-interview. And Angelina is shaking her head. I mean, we did it really fast, but she's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to. Okay, I'll do it. And then, oh my gosh, the questions that came from her were so amazing because I had so much to do in the past 2 days. I just have to tell you, we had a nightmare at work last night. And so I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning working on a PowerPoint for today. And I got up at 7:30 this morning to present. So having those questions laid out, knowing that it was already there, I could just clip them, put them into the PowerPoint, and it made it very, very smooth. It also helps with creating your introduction, because I just did it briefly that time for Angelina because Steve did such an amazing job introducing her. But that is so powerful to figure out what that introduction is. And don't use AI for that. Use your heart, use your soul, use what you want to connect to your guest. So it's not about what 5 things do I do to do a pre-interview, even though it's in PowerPoint. It's about the connection. Like Craig Valentine says, right? It's not about perfection. It's about connection. I live my life that way. My podcast is that way. People will tell you as guests, they're amazed at how relaxed they felt. You need to figure out how to make your guests feel relaxed, and you will blossom. Your podcast will explode when that happens. Trust me, that's what happened to me. But take the steps to overcome imposter syndrome that I'm talking about. Do a Facebook Live every day. I want to challenge you, Nigel, to do that. Because
I don't do Facebook Live. Something on YouTube and Instagram, perhaps.
Do a YouTube every day, 2 to 3 minutes. Talk about a lesson in Toastmasters. Talk about something that you're really passionate about. You're going to gain followers from that, and you're going to overcome imposter syndrome. That was Darren LaCroix's message. I will quote him because that changed my life. That's part of this whole process, right? Is connecting all those dots. And consider a high performance leadership project, honestly, because you will get incredible support, and aim high. Pick people that you really feel are going to make a difference or invested in what you want to say to the world. And I'm going to go around the world and do this keynote. And this is the first time I've had this opportunity. I'm so grateful to Fred and Angelina and Steven. And, I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity because I've been holding back with imposter syndrome. I'm just going to admit it right now. And being so tired to be able to do this, like the next time it's going to be easier. I'm speaking in Jamaica next month and I spoke in Dubai. I was invited to speak in Dubai and I wasn't ready for that, but now I'm ready. Now it's going to be amazing. My hope is I'm going to have an article in the Toastmaster magazine soon. I wrote one, but it's not quite done. Oh, I'll put it out there. If anybody is a good writer and wants to take a look at it, please text me because I'm right on the edge of submitting it. And it's really to help Toastmasters around the world overcome imposter syndrome, launch a podcast through the High Performance Leadership Project.
And Fred has a question, right? Fred,
Well, I'm just going to make it quick. I'm just going to chime in on what Michael was
Please
talking
do.
about based on Nigel's question. And that is, you heard me earlier about talking about never interrupting your guest. That's part of what the pre-interview process prevents is that. But also, just like a speech, you have to know your audience. So like if I was going to interview Angelina, either in my club or not, because she's the program quality director and in district leadership, I may ask her, hey, is it okay if I ask you this question instead of just throwing it out there? Because that way she's not looking bad. I'm not looking bad by asking that type of question. We know ahead of time because someone I interviewed, their wife emailed me the question because he was running for a political office. And other than one little snafu with equipment, it went smoothly. That's really all I wanted to chime in on.